let me ask you this. To be a child, what does it mean?
That's a good question. Wow. It had sort of been associated with a pride of heritage and who we were and how we came from Europe to the U.S. And my dad was grandpa, really into genealogy.
There was a standard to that. What would you say? What do you think it stands for?
Well, you know, he was always really proud to have all children finish college, you know, have a degree, do their best. He always emphasized or expressed to me his being proud of what I had achieved, finishing school and you know, mentioning my brother's success in his architecture and my sister's success, and always very proud of his kids. Even to the point where he would be concerned if, you know, he didn't have a boy to carry on the child's name. I mean, very, very proud. Lieutenant Commander, Navy, retired, very patriotic.
What do you want it to mean for your kids? To be a child?
I don't think that I share the same emphasis of the last name as a lineage. I share much of the patriotism of the country. I mean, he instilled in me a lot of values and you know, I credit him with everything he's trained, you know, woodworking, and he really let me have a lot of freedom. But for my kids, I want their last name, whatever they may decide to do and become, to be synonymous with integrity and in their own right. Just that they don't back down. They're strong. They're not rude or impolite or use foul language, but yet aggressive, in control, to get what they want in business, to know that they can achieve anything in life. You know, Connor talks about wanting to be the first person to land on Mars. I said, well, age-wise, that actually could work out. You know, you're 12 a few weeks ago, and about 20 years we're supposed to land. That puts you, if you do the right engineering and right, you know, flight practice, you could be there. And Brandon with his, you know, he wants to be a snowboarding veterinarian. So I said, well, if you got a good practice, you could probably have a lot of snowboarding days. I just want it to mean truth and trust and integrity. I don't care how it relates to my dad or to brothers and sisters. There's some good history there. There's some bad history there. I want them to define it. I hope that what I've taught them, and I try real hard with church, conversations at home, values. They're mixed with you. You've got to be mature, no whining, no complaining, but firm, in control of emotion, and I don't know how to put it, just a rock, solid. You know.
Well, for a guy who doesn't know how to put it, put it pretty well.
Well, you prompted the question.
I like the way I'm shot. Move the angle on this a little bit. Let's turn up the volume here. Let's.
People do that? I bet they.
No, they just let me do my thing. Okay, Roger, so you're telling me about,
Are we on? Can you hear me now?
but you're telling me about births.
Phenomenal experiences. These.
You have to say births because my voice will never be heard.
Okay. Well, yeah, we were talking about the birth of the boys, and it just brings back an incredible set of emotions. I mean, in contrast, you have one, Connor, born, August 14th, 96, in San Diego. Mom and Dad so excited, Alvarado Hospital, and here we are we knew it was cesarean, so we were all prepared. We knew what time to be there and everything, and out Connor comes. And Mom's over being attended to by the doctors, and I'm with him right away under the warming tables, and everything went smoothly. I didn't have any concerns. I knew he was healthy, all the toes and every part was there, and he began to pee right into the doctor's face, and it was just joyous, and we felt comfortable and relaxed. Mom always jokes that I dressed him in his little going home suit, and I put his hat backwards. So that's a long joke, and then 4 years and 2 weeks later, here comes Brandon, August 27, 2000, millennium baby, and things didn't go the same. It was still a cesarean, with Mom's body and them being breech, and so we knew what time he was going to be born, and out he comes, and I think everything's going smoothly, and I began to get a feeling from the doctors working on him over on the side that he's not breathing right. And I'm asking the doctor, how's he doing? Okay, he's, give us a minute. And it started to hit me. Mom was clueless. She's being put back together, and before you know it, off he's rushed to the neonatal intensive care unit, and they start with oxygen. They intubate him. Before you know it, he's on a respirator. His oxygen sats are low. And there was a fear, even though he was probably the biggest baby in the neonatal intensive care, that he might not make it. And it was a serious condition with water and fluid in the lungs. And I was by his bed, the most scared I had ever been in my life, easily. To this day, even he just turned 8 yesterday, and to this day, I've never experienced anything that scary. To be, Mom is upstairs recovering. She wasn't able to be by his side, and I'm there being the engineer, monitoring every number, looking at every meter and beep, and as he improved, and as he came off vent, and as he got out of the oxygen tent, I began to realize that he's going to be okay. And I would go upstairs and visit Mom and assure her that he's doing better, he's going to be okay. And I can even think back right now and just breathe a sigh of relief. What an experience. And now today, such different entrances into the world, and such different kids now today. One sort of in control, very reserved and cautious, and very thoughtful in how he proceeds and what he says and does, and the other one's just exuding energy and excitement and just a thrive for life out of every pore of his body. Just kind of that wants to be the extreme sports guru, and So, you know, one comes in calm and collected, and one comes in just hell on wheels with tubes and trauma and excitement from the get-go. And just phenomenal experiences, their birth. Too many words, but whatever.
No, I got an idea on that. It's a good story, very good story. That tells me when we finish one and on the way to another. Tell me about, now that you're just kind of in this mode a little bit, I want to go back further. You met Julie.
Mm-hmm.
There was obviously something you knew about her when you met her, right?
Yeah.
Of course she was hot. I mean, all those.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago it was, but I knew what her. I mean, so just take me from how you felt when you met her the first time, and how you felt on the day that you were married, and how whatever has stayed consistent ever since. And I want this to be a minute and 15 seconds, but just bring me through those things. When I met her, I felt this. When I married her, I felt this, and she has not disappointed me since, or whatever it might be.
Okay. I don't know how to start it. Just well, when I met your mom.
It's like when I met, when I met Julie. I mean,
Okay.
Julie, when I met you.
Yeah. So, let's start over. So when I met your mom, Julie, it was 21 years ago now, and we dated for 5 years, but we met at a party that I was having at my house, illegally, according to what my parents told me I could and couldn't do. And there was a lot of people there, and you were brought by one of my friend's girlfriends. Never seen you before. And
so it's like, I remember when I first saw you.
Yeah.
That's where it could start.
Okay. I remember when I first saw you, Julie, and we were at a party, and the thoughts that went through my mind were just, wow, I need to get to know her. She's beautiful. She has personality and a quality about her that was different, that made her stand out from, other girls I had seen. I guess I was probably 20 when she was about 18. And the amount of fun we had together was just phenomenal.
Right,
So many.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I don't know how to do this.
No, you're good, except that you said, Julie, when I met you the first time, and you started saying, I saw her, and I saw
Well,
her.
I know I'm switching context
Yeah,
because
you're-
I don't know who I'm talking about or to or.
Well, how about you're talking to me, and it's like, when I met Julie for the first time.
That I can do it that way, and I'll stay in that
She was
context.
this, and she was this.
Okay.
And but like I said, I want you to take it from the first time I met you, I felt this.
If I'm talking to you, that'll help me stay in context. But if I'm talking to the boys and then Julie and then my wife, and so let me.
Talk to me.
Okay.
I can remember, when I met Julie for the first time, it was there. But just you got to keep this thing fairly tight, and then get to the wedding, and then get to.
Okay.
There was that one. I'm sure there was that thread that from the first time you met her to when you married her to now, she's always been that very consistent. There's that consistent quality within her.
Yeah. Okay. So when I met Julie for the very first time, it was at a party. She stood out. I knew I had to get to know her. She was different than anybody I had seen. We began dating. A funny story, if I can throw this in there, is that when we went on our first date, I didn't think it was a date. She thought it was a date. We went to the movie theater, and I went up to the window and said, "One, please." And she has not let me forget that for 21 years. That I was cheap, I guess, but I've since changed. We continued dating for 5 more years. I moved down to San Diego. She wondered about our relationship long distance. She eventually moved down. We found a good church. She had roommates from church. I had roommates. I was going to San Diego State. I asked her to marry me on a hot air balloon in Del Mar, San Diego. We went up. I had it all planned out. We had a bottle of champagne. I had the ring. Everybody was scared I was going to drop it into a cornfield below. There are probably strawberry fields in California. And it was a phenomenal experience. I got down on my knee in the hot air balloon, asked her to marry me. We were married 1 year later. Phenomenal wedding, 300 people, best friends, unbelievable experience. Just, I sang Jam on It. I had every word, and I sang that, making a fool of myself at the reception. Julie, in the following years as a married couple, was just a rock. One thing she brings, and it gets me emotional, one thing she brings to our relationship is that she compliments me in a way that I couldn't achieve without her. I don't know how you're going to cut this. Julie has the ability to think clearly, stay calm, care for people, and cover the emotional side of things that I tend to look past. I'm a little bit more cut to the chase, a little bit more harsh, not as caring, not as giving. But with her by my side, improved me beyond measure. And she continued to be that rock in our relationship, continually teaching me of how to treat people right, how to take the time out to be a caring individual, how to share, how to think of people from, gift or a card or a thank you. And there was no doubt in my mind that she would be a phenomenal mother. I don't know what you make of that, but
You know what, I think it's
second
we can.
before
We can, but you know what, let's,
I share with you what I'm thinking.
well, you know what, but to talk about it in such a way that you say, you know what, it's a crazy thing, right? I don't know how you can describe or how you, but if you just start off by saying, in terms of this, in terms of this disease, in terms of ALS, it's hard to describe it. But if you can, try, because I'm sure you've given that a lot of thought.
Well, are you recording already? Before I start, I'm thinking of explaining early symptoms and my job and beginning to think of moving out of state, and when we were told 2 months after we arrived in Colorado. And just kind of see it'll go into an emotional thing again. But then...
And I believe this is a point where you need to talk about this and just be as strong as you can be. It's like something just kind of took over.
It's like the hardest thing I talk about, though, trying to stay. I wish I could. I wish I could talk about it without the emotion. Even though it obviously is an emotional topic, I want to be able to sound...
To take that part out of it.
Well, yeah, because my voice will flutter. I want to be able to sound strong. Yeah, we were given this crappy news, but with each other, we prayed and talked, cried a lot, but knew we were going to get through it, and All right.
So I mean, you could start by just saying, you know what, I started to feel different. I knew something was up. I mean, just how does that? I mean, and that's a good way just to kind of get into that.
Okay. So in late 2004 in San Diego, I was working at Sony, and life was kind of just plodding along. I had a good friend down the street, Jim Lamore, and we would go to Family Fitness and work out together. And I went on a ski trip with my sister Linda and cut 2 extensor tendons on my thumb with, a really dumb fall, just kind of on an intermediate slope, looking back at her, and boom, went down. The ski sliced me up. Waited 4 hours to have it all sutured back together. Well, when I went back to the gym after all this physical therapy and so forth, I couldn't lift the same amount of weight. Bench press, I'm kind of wimpy, so I was 130 pound, and then it was 120, then it was 110. Before you knew it, I had to have my buddy spotting me to even do 90, and I was like, what's going on? And I was having weird cramps in the back of my shoulder. My hands were cramping up, almost like a palsy type of, like a grip, and I couldn't uncramp them. And I thought, well, maybe it was the protein shakes I was taking. Maybe I was working out too much, because as I was losing this ability to push higher and higher weights, I figured, well, I need to give my body some rest. I also was extremely into astronomy, and I would stay up really late, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., out in the backyard looking at the stars, just loved it. But then I would sleep 4 or 5 hours, go to work early, and drink coffee. So I thought, okay, I need to cut off on the working out, cut the coffee, get more sleep. Julie always told me, get more sleep. It's been a broken record. And so I had a blood test in about December 2004. I was the healthiest patient they had ever taken blood from. I had them run everything from glucose to cholesterol, lowest cholesterol they had ever seen. Nothing's wrong with you. So, couldn't explain the cramps, couldn't explain twitches and the continuing weakening at the gym. Well, I just let it go. And during that exact same time, we needed to leave California, just from schooling, from a job, from just the overcrowding. We needed to go. And one place that just popped out was Colorado. Even when I was 10 years old, I did a report in crayon and did the Colorado flag, and I've always felt like I was meant to live here. It's the only other state flag I knew. And I found a phenomenal Ball Aerospace. We came out. We were ready to reduce our cost of living. They paid me more. I was done with consumer electronics and just kind of not feeling a sense of accomplishment, a sense of improving the world. It's just that faster, better, cheaper world. And this was a chance to rewrite textbooks, discover more moons around Jupiter, send probes off to Pluto and Mars rovers, and Ball Aerospace has built all these cameras. It was a dream job. We found an incredible house. The boys loved their school. We loved our church. It felt to me like God had just steamrolled a perfect asphalt highway and freshly painted a yellow stripe. There was not a glitch. We came to Colorado. The company helped us move. Didn't even chip a plate. Perfect. Life was awesome. I thanked God every day. I would eat lunch looking up at the Rockies and seeing the snow and just think, this is it. We have arrived. This is phenomenal. 2 months later, I was told, after having some fatigue in my arms, that you might have some type of motor neuron or muscular disease. We're going to have to run some additional tests. I think I was the first person to ever have these symptoms go through this small town neurology doctor. He sent me up to Colorado University. Sure enough, ALS. You have ALS. Get your affairs in order. You have 2 to 5 years to live. Connor and Brandon are out in the waiting room. My wife and I are in tears. How do we... This doctor was just blunt. White lab coat, this is it. Next, please. How do we go out there and see the boys and drive home? What are we gonna do? We're just completely dumbfounded. We had additional diagnoses done down in the Houston Medical Center, 3 days worth of extensive testing. Yep, you have ALS. You will continue to atrophy. You will lose the use of your arms, your hands, your legs, eventually your diaphragm. You won't be able to breathe, and you'll eventually die. There's no known cause, there's no known cure. Do whatever you can to get your affairs in order. That seems to be the typical phrase the doctors give you. What took place over the next few weeks was, I can't even describe it. We cried. We felt like we were alone. We reached out. We had friends that would come over and sit with us. We thought we could meet with therapists. We hid it. We hid it from the boys. They didn't need, they had just moved to a new state, a new house, a new school. They had their own issues with trying to find friends. The last thing they need is to hear that their dad has now been diagnosed with something that he could die of. So we hid it. We didn't talk to him. We didn't tell him anything. We were told that, you've got to give them age-appropriate information. They're going to eventually see these changes in you, and they're going to ask questions. One of our children, Connor, would be very reserved and hold it inside, and the other, Brandon, might not even really know what's going on, but we had to tell them that Daddy and Mommy have got some bad news, and Daddy's muscles will continue to weaken. We don't know how long that'll take. I can't guarantee that we'll die of this. You never know. God never gives you tomorrow. He never guarantees that to anybody. Could get hit by a car, could have a heart attack. But the least we knew was that an hourglass was turned over. And it almost felt like, you watch the Star Trek episodes. I'm a Trekkie sci-fi guy. You watch these episodes, they always talk about how, you can't see the future. Because if you see the future, the whole time paradigm will be screwed up. I feel like I was given a window into the future. I was shown what was going to happen to me over the next few years. And, sorry. A lot of people would love to know what their future holds. Is my mom still going to be alive? Am I still going to be alive? What's the future of my children? But I'll tell you, being told this is like a time bomb. You don't know how to act, what to do. How are you living your life? Are you spending your hours the best way you can? Are you doing everything you can to teach your kids what's important? I've thought, Julie and I have sat down and talked hours upon hours about what this diagnosis means for our life. And it has changed me. I still have a lot of improvement to go through. But at a bare minimum, I know I'm a different person. I've put values at different levels. I've moved priorities. It's a shame that you don't have these kind of life-changing realizations when you're 20 years old and still healthy. It takes older age and unfortunate circumstances to cause a person to dig deeper and to focus on what, and to wish and to some point have regrets, to wish you had done things differently throughout your life, and realize that that time is gone, and all I can do now is be positive, look forward, and do it now. Achieve those things now, and to make the best of it. I'm not going to sit in a corner and mope. I may be emotional and I may slur my speech or whatever, but I am going to try and be the strongest, like I would like Connor and Brandon, like I teach them, to be strong, to be a rock, to hopefully go through this proudly and in such a manner that they can look back and have memories and be proud, and most importantly, take something with them from me that affects their personality and their core being for the rest of their life. I don't know if I can do it anymore.
I think that's it. title this bold predictions. So to do this, they both have to go to school, right?
Yeah, are we on?
We're on. Yeah,
Predictions?
If I were to make bold predictions for my kids, here's what they would be.
Well, I think some predictions I would have. Let's start with Brandon. He's recently been doing really good in math. And in fact, when he tested second grade math test in first, he aced the entire thing. And so he's definitely got away with numbers, and he wants to be a veterinarian right now. So, I can see it, but I just think there will be something in his life that starts to change that path. I could see him becoming really effective in business, somebody that leads a large group of people. I see him having a lot of confidence about him. I possibly even working up into the higher ranks of corporate world, or maybe even starting his own business. He's got to fund that snowboarding addiction that he always talks about, and fly all over the world to get to the extreme snowboarding events, X Games. Connor is not so extreme. He's more reserved. Brandon's had stitches. He's had a broken leg at age 2. He's already been hurt. And Connor is really cautious. He thinks a lot before he does something. Takes after mom a lot. And I think Brandon is definitely just an exact copy of me with the craziness. But Connor is already being praised by his teachers for just having a love of science. He's the one that wants to go out with me on astronomy parties up in Wyoming, which just love to do that. I've taken him back in San Diego. We went to Anza Borrego and went to the Oceanside and Photo and Telescope Club. And we would spend the entire night looking up at the stars, and he had his own little telescope, one of my smaller ones that he would operate. And then we did that a few times out here in Colorado. He's great at math, great at physics. He actually wants to be one of the first people to land on Mars, and all the timing is right to the point where I think that could certainly happen. But I've talked to him about doing his math, doing his physics, maybe even flight training, doing all the things that would lead up with a degree and so forth up into an engineering career. It might not happen. Whatever he wants to do, I support, but I could definitely see him going that way.
Go back and sum those two up. In about
less.
About 30 seconds apiece. You would say, based upon what I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
You're saying one, finance, business, lead large groups of people. The other one, just.
Yeah. Well, okay. If I were to make a prediction about the two boys, starting with Brandon, really good with numbers, already starting to shine in early grades here. And although he wants to become a veterinarian, I think his knowledge and his interests might take him down a business track. Being a really good manager, a leader of people, possibly, elevating all the way through some of the higher ranks in business and corporations. Connor has had so much interest in science and physics, and he always loves to do little projects around the house. We poured milk and vinegar together on the stove and things like that. He loves to go on astronomy nights with me. He is being praised by his teachers for his science and his love of all these. I could see him easily going down an engineering path. Talk to him about becoming a pilot and flight training and NASA and all the engineering background. He still seems pretty interested in those things. So. I like all that detail.
If I were gonna do it again. Okay, it's on.
Testing.
Yeah, if I were gonna,
I'll figure out how to start it. I mean, I guess something like thinking back to my high school years.
Yeah.
Um,
Just go with it.
yeah. um, yeah, okay. So, thinking back to my high school years, those were some interesting times. I don't know that I'd call it regret, but I certainly would say that I missed out on some things. I have this personality that kind of withdraws from sort of the overwhelming, the talking, the popularity groups. I kind of like to do my own thing. And during those years, I was really involved with model airplanes and go-karts, mini bikes, later in high school working on my car. Every waking hour went into these kind of individual tasks. But I was an avid drummer. Played in 8th grade, but in high school didn't join the band. I played soccer for 10 years, and later in middle school and high school, didn't join any of the sports teams. I hung out with 4 or 5 best buddies, and we kind of just got into mischief. Rode our moped down to the beach and had big bonfires and surfed. But I think by not being a part of sort of the school community, the groups, call it what you will, the jocks, the bandos, and all the different cliques, by being a part of those, you get to meet more people, you get to have experiences. You can make what you want of those experiences. You can have them improve you, or you can decide that they're a part of something that you don't want to be a part of. I think, in short, though, I missed out. I mean, I never went to any of the high school dances. I didn't have a girlfriend, until I met Julie. It was sort of the first time I had ever dated anybody for a long period of time, really, actually the first. So when I think about Connor and Brendan, I see a little bit of this in Connor with drawing. I think it's just going through puberty or something, but my recommendation is even if it pains you a little bit, or it's a little bit out of your comfort zone, be a part of that. Don't fall for the peer pressure. Make your own good choices. And if you see the popular group going off to do something that doesn't fall within your values, back out. But certainly don't just dump it all. You need to those things out for yourself and get involved. It's something I wish I had done more of, but those experiences shaped me for who I am today. So I don't know that I regret, but when I think back, maybe some things I would have done a little differently. So. Okay, I can't do that one over again. So didn't encourage kids to stand or anything. They just sat down on the ground and kept coloring.
Yeah,
and
that's Miss Jeffries now. But she got married.
Yeah. She's awful.
She's Ryan's teacher.
Oh, great.
So far, so good.
I hope she has a better second year. No, I'm sorry, but she was way, way, way too informal. Let kids do whatever they want. Kids will be kids. If they're ADD, they just let them talk, Even Brandon, as an 8-year-old, said a very mature thing. He said, she'll just let us talk, let us goof off, and then all of a sudden she's had enough, and then she yells at us, and puts us in the common area and time out, and
Maybe she's stronger now.
I hope so.
I'll go watch.
She bugged me. She was too young. First year, 24-year-old teacher or whatever.
Hey, we're getting back on something bigger than that.
Go to Miss Muniza next year. She's been phenomenal. 2nd grade.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
We were told this morning, stay as far away from her as you can ever stay.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
She's just an absolute. So what I'm saying is, it's just all buttons.
I've heard those rumors. And there are some parents that do not take her discipline and strictness as necessary to control the classroom, her class is always the most organized. And they take it as rude. They take it as disrespectful to the child. She's never disrespectful. She just has a tight class. Brandon came from going to the principal's office 2 times, fighting,
it's a good fit for him.
smacking kids in the head, talking, getting put in timeout, to getting stars almost every day now. Because he works better in a structure. Wow, that's interesting.
Hey.
She's a nice girl. I spent a lot of time with Weedy on all the field trip. No, she's not that way. The 3rd grade teachers, huh?
I know what's got her right now.
Huh? Oh, yeah. 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 She's cute.
This is on now,
It is. Hey. Julie already knows that, actually. You got me recorded on Miss Weedy, too? Oh, jeez. Now you have bribery material.
Jeffries now. Now we got 7 minutes. You got
I don't
7
know who you're talking about.
You've got 7 minutes to talk about spiritually, what would you say?
Spiritually, that's a very hard topic for me. I've spent my whole life in church, yet I've always struggled with the scientific side of me, the religious side of me, what's taught, what I can prove, what I read in science books, how it relates. I'm always looking for proof. When I was very young, I'd always ask God to, if you really exist, prove to me, tip this pole over or something. And, so I was immersed in the culture. And I think it was a great thing for me all through my life, because even though I drifted as far from it as you can get, I always had that basic teaching, the basic knowledge of what's right, what's good, how to treat others. I didn't always do it from a long shot, but I think eventually as you get older, you get through some of your adolescent kind of dealings, and you come back to a point where you start reflecting on what are the things I can do in life to live it as best as possible. And a lot of those things were taught to me through those early Sunday school classes and through church and verses and so forth. But man, through high school, that was the last thing on my mind. And then when I moved down to San Diego to go to college. Julie and I had been dating for about 3 years, from 87 and I went to college in 90. We had gotten very involved in church. She had two roommates that were Christians at the church, and I had 3 roommates in a house right off campus that were Christians at the church. I began playing drums, got super involved. We were there Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Saturday practices. I was there 4 or 5 times just to get ready for the drumming on Sunday mornings for 3 services. We got to a point where we were now small group leaders. And the things that Julie and I used to do, we didn't do anymore. We felt that if we're going to be teaching God's Word, that we should be living it. And that was difficult. But, in the end, I think it was for the best. I think we learned a lot through those stages. Even since the 90s, I've gone one way and back. I feel very strongly about bringing my boys to church. I think, if it's an ulterior motive or call it what you will, I want to be sure they have the same experience that I had growing up. That at least they know what's right, what's good, what's expected of proper human beings, how to treat others. But I realize they're not going to be perfect. They're not going to follow it.
Let me ask you this. Aside all church out of the equation, what about your relationship with God? What about that?
It's tough. I've had times where I've been unbelievably thankful to God. For instance, the birth of my children, and when I've been successful, when I've got a promotion, when things have just been going phenomenally right. And then I've been extremely upset at him to the point where I've completely dropped him out of my life and wondered, what good is any of this doing? And most recently with ALS, I was pissed and wondered why. There's criminals out there. There's people who murder and are just not good people. Why are they drinking beers and smoking cigars and sitting on a couch watching the football game till 90 years old, healthy? And here's a guy who thought everything was going great and working out and being a good father and doing the right thing, and then gets ALS. What kind of God is there? But
Comes back to what?
well, at this point now, I am finding myself drawing closer and closer to God. And I don't totally understand it, other than it feels better to live life and to go through this disease, as sad as I can be, the ups and downs, knowing that there's somebody with me, I guess. Somebody that will also, if I can ingrain it in my kids, and I feel such a terrible role model to be the one doing that, but I try. If I can get that way of thinking in their minds, they'll be better off, even when I'm not here. And like I had as a kid, I went through the ups and downs, the bad experiences, and played around, but I came back to those roots. And I want them to be able to do that too. They have to have a basis of what's right. And I think by bringing them to church and teaching them about God, that things will come out okay for them, like they did for me, I think. That's going to be a mixed match of editing. I could see making something out of all that.
Go back into that a little bit. What would you say? And start with, I think the best of times. There's two of them. What was it?
Of course, I have so many memories of great times in my life, but things seem to really come into place when I moved down to San Diego from Fountain Valley and started college there at San Diego State. Got roommates and just really had a great time. Julie moved down about a year later. We had a long distance relationship, but then she came down. We both were in the same church, and she lived with some roommates, and I had mine. It was really a lot of fun. And it was in '92 we got married, and we got ourselves a little condo. It was just the two of us. For probably, a year or two, it was really neat getting used to each other. And I don't know, I was still working at Unifiber and doing some night classes and trying to finish up my degree. It felt really good. And in '95, we bought a house and we moved up to San Marcos. And we had some incredible times there. New home, building it up, just decorating, and along comes Connor in '96 and Brandon in 2000. Times then felt really good because, I was getting promotions in work, and we were a really young family, and some days kind of seemed to be methodical, and kind of just in the grind, and felt like we were, not going anywhere for a year or two, but happy, just kind of plodding along. Still a lot of memories, a lot of really, really fond memories. One of the best times, though, out of everything, looking back from a family perspective, is when we moved to Colorado. From every single perspective, from family, from career, from our house, the kids' school, church, financially feeling comfortable with having paid off everything, you know, coming from California. I remember times going to work and wondering if this was real. You know, it's just, it wasn't $1 million, you know, type stuff, but it was very comfortable. And looking up at the Rockies and the snow and just thinking to myself, thank you, God. This is phenomenal. You know, I think we've arrived, you know, we're finally out of California and kind of all that monotony and, I don't know, and just overbearing stress and strain of living out there. And now it just seemed calm, happy. I don't know. What else?
You know what? It ends at calm, happy.
Yeah.
That's where it ends. That's a good bite. That's a real good bite.
Yeah, it's very non-articulate, though.
Yeah, I don't know how you start that. So, I mean, it's like almost like, okay, here's what I know. I made some people mad. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You know, I probably.
Yeah, looking back on my life, there's certainly times I've upset people. I've said the wrong things. Words are powerful, and I've misused them on occasion. I have some regrets. And I've tried my best to forgive, but I haven't always been perfect. And I just really need to say sorry, and that I never really intently meant to hurt anyone with things I've said or done, but I'm sure it's happened. And also, you know, as ALS progresses, my whole mental state is changing in terms of what I used to do and how much I used to do, or, you know, as far as chores around the house and helping out. And now I find myself, especially now that I've quit work, being a little bit more lazy, maybe not helping out as much around the house. I still try to make that time for the kids, but maybe a little short, snappy, kind of. That maybe require more patience on certain occasions. It's hard. And Julie and I have had this conversation because, you know, while I can now help out, maybe I should be trying more to do so, because there will come a time when I'll have everyone around me helping me. And that's a two-edged sword, because it's going to be hard for me to accept their help. I'm going to still want to do everything by myself, but yet in the same token, I'm going to need to learn to accept that help. And I will be incredibly grateful for the help, but it's going to be a very interesting dynamic because of my personality. It's you know, unless they find a cure, which I really hope, it's coming. The time is coming. I already noticed my hands getting pretty weak, and Julie's helping me a lot with dressing chores and hygiene and, you know, things like that already. But losing the independence is going to be tough. The first thing that's coming up that I'm already having discussions with friends about and with Julie is driving. I know I probably already shouldn't be, you know, from an insurance standpoint. I'm supposed to report my weakened condition, and yet I'm still driving. Driving is, and with my love of cars, having the Porsche, and just, it is so fun. Losing that ability is going to be, it's going to be like the first major realization that I'm losing independence. Drumming, love it. Water skiing, sports, modeling, tinkering in the garage with all my tools. Those are things that were frustrating, but I can adapt. Losing your car and your ability to go places independently, As much as I like driving, that's going to be hard. And then there's going to be even tougher times than that. So I guess one step at a time, one day at a time. And I'll do my best to adapt. But I guess ahead of time, I apologize if I don't treat people with the respect and with the gratitude that I should. Because there will be ups and downs. Definitely some emotional, difficulties day to day. I don't know.
I don't understand anything about you.
Yeah.
If you're in there, you know it.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's your tape.
Yeah.
I like that.
You should fit that in here somewhere. This is my tape, damn it. Okay, we're rolling.
We are so rolling.
Okay.
Your thought is about people who have inspired you, what they've done. What is it about these people?
Yeah, that's a fun topic actually, because as I begin to think about how people have influenced me, inspired me, so many things pop into mind. Early childhood teachers, just typical things you think of. Mrs. Fraser, my 8th grade teacher, just some of the things that I learned, and mostly how to deal with people, how to have thicker skin. Because early on with bullying and just being picked on, I was a smaller child, and I think she said some profound things to me. Hey, you gotta let that stuff roll off your back. You're better than them, And then through life, some bosses have said things. One said, never miss a good opportunity to shut up. That stuck with me my whole life, whether sitting in a corporate boardroom or talking with Julie, But, siblings, brothers, sisters, family, my dad, we had so much fun in the garage. He really taught me. I had my own instincts to be mechanical and to work on my Volkswagen go-karts and take everything apart. But, he taught me woodworking and lathing, in the shop. And we did so many projects. And I guess he was just very dedicated. It's funny, his personality as a CPA was so different than mine later in life as an engineer, and I couldn't imagine dealing with numbers like he did. But brothers, sisters, really, promoting me to go out in the world and to explore and to investigate and to never be afraid to go down paths that I wouldn't have normally, because I'm kind of a comfort zone type of guy. I don't like moving, but every time I have, it's been for the better. It's never been a negative experience. It's always been moving forward, better, bigger, more exciting. I've never regretted a move, never regretted going on any trips or exploring the world. How to have fun, It's unfortunate it took a disease, but in this time now, since diagnosis, I have become so much closer with, Michelle, Doug, Linda. These were brothers and sisters that were so much older and lived kind of different lives. I mean, there was a 2-part family situation going on, and now, in these days, recently, we have gotten to know each other better than ever before, and I would never trade that for the world. I've been taught how to have fun. We've had the time of our life. Some of the trips we've taken to build memories, photos and experiences as a family have just been off the hook. Just so much fun. Gosh, we're going to Australia, and We had trips to Cayman and Panama and Hawaii and on and on. To just enjoy life is something I've been learning a lot more about lately. Other influences have been from people who, when I have had an attitude of not wanting to participate, not wanting to call someone back, not wanting to go over to their house, kind of wanting to just gel, just relax and sit around, they've pushed me to do that. And not just Julie, friends. Say, oh, come on, it'll be fun. And I go, and it was an incredible time. I'm so happy that I've gone out and gone to their house and had a party or played poker or, sometimes I think we just need that kick in the butt. And there have been a lot of very meaningful people in my life who have kicked me in the butt right at the right time. And I thank them for that, because without it, I might have floundered in a hole somewhere and not progressed in life. I don't know. What else can yeah, that's kind of it. I thought there was some other things I wanted to touch on. God, I'm so all over the map.
Show a picture of her, and you can just,
yeah, I'll find a picture.
From my mom, you were saying my appreciation of home.
Well, I think back growing up in Fountain Valley. Those were the primary years from about age 10 till the time I moved out, and some of the influences I had from my mom, I think have stuck with me my whole life. Cleaning and cooking. Everyone accuses me of being anal and meticulous and waxing my cars, and served me well in college. I was the one who wasn't afraid to pull the hairballs out of the drain from the roommates and always wanted to cook something more than just pasta, top ramen, and mac and cheese. My mom was a good cook, and I think an important thing that I've tried to instill in my kids comes from my mom and dad at the dinner table. One, having dinner together. I think I was reading a statistic about how families are so different from the ones who have dinner together as family and ones that don't. And my dad was adamant about dinner together, and so am I. But from my mom, the food thing, she made everything. Sometimes it was like 5 days of leftovers mixed together, a little salt and pepper. Somehow, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't so good. I love Brussels sprouts now, but when she made them back then, I hated them. But now I try to instill that in our boys. They are great eaters. They eat everything. Connor, you take him to a restaurant and he asks for the broccoli, not like the French fries or the fruit cup. He wants the broccoli. And they love, Linda made a pureed Brussels sprout casserole. And it was so good. The kids just woofed it down. But I think, back to point, I got that from my mom and dad, that you eat what's on your plate, you appreciate your food. They're both World War II, and my mom talks about being a young girl waiting in bread lines in Germany during Hitler's times, and we didn't throw anything away. Always ate all the leftovers, but I learned to like every kind of food. Luckily, I have a high metabolism, because otherwise I'd be huge, because I eat a lot. But I don't know. That's more comedy than anything. Okay.
Is that kind of...
No, I can think of a bunch of funny things.
Yeah, and from Patty, what?
Well, Patty, of course, we're the closest in age, and we lived together. You know, we were the ones in the house with mom and dad, and same school, and same friends, and same crazy parties, and getting into trouble, and you know, whether even from little kids. Gosh, we had so much fun together. We would drive mom and dad crazy. One time we were in the back of a car on a long trip cross country, and we made an entire car in the back seat out of paper. We had scissors, and I guess you were allowed to drive with scissors back then. We were cutting things out. We made steering wheels and radios, and we were annoying my dad so bad. He was, oh, make me come back there. Oh, and then we'd say, he don't like us. And then, you know, or parties when people would run through our screen doors, and she was like, party, and then I'm the one trying to keep the place clean. Oh, don't spill on the carpet. Mom and Dad are coming home soon. And or when she tried to help me out, shall we say, watering my hydroponics on the roof and getting caught, and there's a lot, and I'll never forget all those fun times of just being silly kids, getting into a lot of trouble, having to go pick her up when she was in trouble down by the beach after a party, and lots of little occasions, approving or disapproving of her boyfriends, things like that, you know, typical brother stuff. Always loving her, but always kind of looking out for her. That's fun to talk about. Our opportunity to meet with these newly diagnosed ALS patients. I am hoping, you know, it's not like a self-fulfilling, oh, I hope I want to feel like I, you know, made an impact on them. I just, in a humble way, I just feel like I hope they're more comfortable, that they learned something from me, that I helped them in some way. I don't know. So, yeah, I can say something like that.
Family too.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't just.
Yeah, everybody.
Of all the people that have influenced me, and I look back on the people that I've encountered, some.
Yeah, there's been people at work I've sent emails to, and they told me a year later they still have it pinned to their cubicle, something I said that they read every week and think of me and what I said, you know, something that I guess they changed the way they think about life.
But that's your hope.
Yeah, yeah. 30 seconds, something, I can.
You're on, so just go.
Well, I already said it. It's my tape, damn it. Okay. Yeah, in sort of the opposite fashion that people have influenced me, I hope, not that I think anything I say is that profound, but I hope, and you know, I pray that in some small way I've influenced them, that something I've said has stuck with them throughout their life, that time we've spent together or pictures and things will bring back memories. I don't know.
It's good.
Yeah, but that's not what I wanted to say. I guess throughout my entire life, we've talked about how people have influenced me. And I think back about, whether I've had an impact on their life. And I hope I have. It wasn't my goal at the time, and with something I've said or something I've written to them. But in a small way, I pray that they remember the time we've had together, or maybe something I've said that would be even more meaningful, that something stuck in their head as or has modified their life for the better because of something I've done or because of our interaction together. I know many people have had that impact on me, and I can only pray I've had the opposite influence on them.